It's 4th of July week here on the NFC West Huddle. We're joined by experts from around the division. We're talking red, white, and blue, but also action green, wolf gray, and gold when you add it all up. I'm Alyssa Charleston-Smith in Seattle, joined by Robbie Baker in Phoenix, Keyshawn Ward in San Francisco. And my, oh my, we've got a guest from Los Angeles, our newest guest. We are so excited to bring on the show frequently. Ryan Dyrud, the CEO and founder of Los Angeles Fanbase Network, or at LAFB Network on X. Ryan, thanks for being here. We're so excited to have you.
Thank you. I'm thrilled to be here and hanging out with all of you beautiful people. So excited always to talk West Coast football in the NFC West and obviously here in LA. So thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Wow, beautiful. That's big compliments for Robbie, Keyshawn, and I. Thank you, thank you. The Rams, they just haven't had anyone to defend them on this show over the past couple weeks, so I think you'll help keep us on our best behavior with any LA slander. Let's get into our first topic. The NFL tweeted a graphic this week of 4 different quarterbacks that already have one Super Bowl win to their name. You got Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, Matthew Stafford, and Jalen Hurts, more recently, obviously. Who of those 4 QBs have the best shot at winning their second this season? Keyshawn, I want to start with you in San Francisco.
Alyssa, I'm going to go with Matt Stafford. I truly believe that Los Angeles Rams team that lost to the Eagles in the playoffs last year, they're a one drive away. If they were playing SoFi Stadium, maybe the circumstance a little bit different because, Matthew Stafford's throwing that bad weather, the snow coming down, it was hard for them to push the ball down the field. So I think that if they're indoors, could be a different outcome. Who knows? And I think that they had won that game, they'd beat the Commanders and then beat the Chiefs. But, if it was a fifth, we all be drunk, as they all say. So I got to say, I think Matt Stafford's probably most likely to win a Super Bowl next year because compared to Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson, I believe those 2 quarterbacks, they're more closer to being on decline, being washed, to be honest, because, Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers, they got all those, big names this offseason so far, but I don't know if those players will really move the needle to get him back to a Super Bowl. I mean, he hasn't been there in, 15 years or more, and then Russell Wilson, he might be benched by week 6. I truly think that the Giants, they have a tough start in the season. They're going to probably be 0-5, and Jackson Dart come and take his spot, or even James Winston. Who knows? And I just think that Jalen Hurts, he did a great job last year, winning when it matters in the NFC title game and Super Bowl, performing at his best. But 13 weeks before that, he was, averaging 150 yards passing. So I got to see it again to believe that he's going to bring another Lombardi trophy to Philly. So if I had to pick, I pick Matthew Stafford.
All right. Okay, so we're going with a little LA Rams fandom. Just trying to get, Ryan on your good side. I see it, Keyshawn. I'm just kidding. But I'm so with you on the Russell Wilson thing. He's going to have to beat out Jackson Dart, I think, for that starting position with the New York Giants. Okay, Robbie, down in Phoenix, who do you think has the best odds?
Well, first, I just want to start. I'll apologize to Ryan because I know he agreed to join us here, but I don't know if he entirely knew what he signed up for. I'm filling in for Richard this week. When Richard gets back, that's when kind of the wheels kind of tend to fall off this, and you maybe catch some strays there. So just fair warning to Ryan there. I'll try to play nice here today. But when you look at the list of the names you gave, Alyssa, Aaron Rodgers kind of stood out to me, and I'm kind of going to zig where Keyshawn zagged a little bit because the moves that the Steelers made this offseason, very un-Steeler-like, not only in the pursuit of Aaron Rodgers and how they kind of waited and did it on his time, but then they have made some blockbuster trades. Jalen Ramsey, DK Metcalf, and then immediately paying DK Metcalf big money. The Steelers feel like a team, the moves they're making makes it feel like they're a team that believes this is a time for them to push all the chips in and compete for a Super Bowl title with the moves that they made. Those are not the type of moves and is not the type of offseason we're accustomed to seeing from the Pittsburgh Steelers. So in that regard, if you look at the way the organization is kind of making moves to feel like it's a Super Bowl time, then I will lean a little bit towards Aaron Rodgers. But a lot of question marks surrounding T.J. Watt right now. He's a name that constantly feels to be in the news this week. Are they going to give him the big money, give him a big extension that he has kind of rightfully earned, in my opinion? That's something that, again, if this was a typical Steelers situation, it would likely get resolved, and you keep T.J. Watt to be a Steeler for life. But the way that this offseason has gone for the Steelers, it seems like it's kind of upside-down world right now for what they usually do. So I'm sure Steelers fans, though, hope T.J. Watt stays there long-term and that Aaron Rodgers is hoisting a Lombardi trophy next February.
Yeah, TJ, come on over to Seattle. We've got a lot of cap space. We have a defensive-minded head coach. Everything's ready for you here with the Seahawks. I know, obviously, he's entering that final year of his deal. Cannot wait to see what happens. But you're totally right, Robbie. I'm shocked at how much of a personality switch the Pittsburgh Steelers have undergone. Okay, Ryan, it is your turn. I'm sorry we waited last for you, but I had to hear from the other guys because I hadn't talked to him yet. So, Matthew Stafford on this list, do you like his chances, or is there somebody else that, catches your eye?
Yeah, well, I don't want my very first question to sound like a biased answer, but I think the answer is Matthew Stafford. When you look at the team coming back they had last year, how close they were last year, as already alluded to earlier, just being one play away essentially from knocking off the Eagles, going to the Super Bowl. And I think when you just pair that with Sean McVay and the coordinators he has and kind of the culture they've built in Los Angeles, they're kind of the ones to beat. I won't piggyback too much on what everyone else said, but I think Aaron Rodgers is enticing in what they're doing in Pittsburgh, but the AFC is just a gauntlet. I mean, good luck getting through all those great teams, and now you have the new risers like Denver and Los Angeles Chargers, who are also have great quarterback play in the AFC, so the NFC is much more wide open, and when you look at this list specifically, it's kind of Matthew Stafford or Jalen Hurts, which is what it was in that game in the playoffs. So I like the Eagles still. I like Jalen Hurts a lot, but I just think what the Rams did, adding Davante Adams, what they were able to do in the draft, getting Terrence Ferguson as their first pick with a tight end, having that true tight end hopefully come into play as Sean McVay is going to run a lot more 12 personnel this season. I like the odds of Stafford. And, obviously there was all the rumors in the offseason of are they going to trade Matthew Stafford to the Raiders or to the Steelers? The fact that they end up getting him back, he's happy, the team's happy. I think he wants to go out on top, as every quarterback does, and I think he has the best shot to do that.
Honestly, all great points. I think it's completely fair to say that, especially when you look at the rest of the AFC. It is terrifying. Denver Broncos could have one of the best defenses in all of the NFL, and just in general with Pittsburgh, who they have to go through. Honestly, for me, I laughed when I saw Russell Wilson. No disrespect, but it's what Keyshawn said. He's on the New York Giants. So that part of the graphic really made me laugh. They were 3-14 last year. We're not going to talk about the fact that one of those wins was against the Seahawks. Forget that. Most sports books actually have the Buffalo Bills favored to win it all this year. So obviously, Josh Allen looking for his first Super Bowl. But the Philadelphia Eagles are second, and it's really hard for me to pick against them with all they have returning. When you're looking at just quarterbacks, I think it's fair to say Matthew Stafford probably is the guy most talented, most experienced, but I can't pick against Jalen Hurts because of who he has around him and the defense they're bringing back, and Saquon Barkley. But again, Matthew Stafford, absolutely my second pick, primarily because of his young, talented defense that they've got in Los Angeles and Sean McVay. Got a lot of respect for him in the receiving core. Like we've mentioned, Davante Adams being in that mix. Aaron Rodgers is just way too risky for me to pick right now because of what's happened with the Jets. I'm so curious what he needs going forward to be back to that, even anywhere near what he was when he was with Green Bay. I think health is obviously a concern, but mentally, I don't know if he's the same dude as he was in Green Bay, even when you have guys like DK Metcalf and their other fun additions. All right, next up, what is the most important move the team you cover has made this offseason? It can be a draft pick, it can be a free agent signing, an extension, or even a player they cut. Ryan, our LAFB network founder, let's start with you on this one.
Yeah, well, this is not to talk about the same player. This is actually an easy one. I mean, you can look at Davante Adams and that addition. You can look at who you guys in Seattle now have, Cooper Kupp, losing him. But in reality, it all comes down to Matthew Stafford, and he was at one point looking like going to be gone from this organization. There was real fire behind the smoke of him potentially getting traded to either the Vegas Raiders or to the Pittsburgh Steelers. At the Combine, the conversations were very real. It was kind of the midnight hour where a meeting in the morning, not really midnight, but it was like 5 a.m. in the morning, where he sat down with Sean McVay and with Les Snead, and they were able to kind of hash out another one-year-long deal to kind of get him done and get him happy and stayed in L.A. around the tune of $50 million. He left money on the table to stay in L.A. versus a trade, whereas the other teams were going to be offering more, the Giants, another team who I didn't mention. But that has to be the most important move because he's the one that gives them the best shot at anything. You got to have the quarterback ready to go. And if you look at the Rams roster and you look at the way they've done things since Stafford's been here, they have no contingency plan for a backup quarterback. I mean, Jimmy Garoppolo is there, obviously back on a one-year deal. Stetson Bennett, who they drafted out of Georgia in the 4th round, is their third-string guy who really hasn't shown much in preseason. So without Stafford, they would be pretty sunk and most likely an under 500 team. So at all points to getting him back was absolutely the most important move they had to get done, and they did get done.
Yeah, the quarterback stirs the drink. And, of course, like classic football guys, let's just meet at 5 a.m. to, work this thing out. That's very, very football-oriented. Okay, Robbie, what about with the Cardinals? What was the most important move of the offseason so far?
Well, similar to what Ryan said about the quarterback kind of being the most important position to get solidified, the Cardinals had that in Kyler Murray already. What they needed was a guy to get after the quarterback, and they did that bringing in Josh Sweat from the champion Eagles in the offseason, with arguably one of, if not the biggest fish in free agency. The Cardinals were able to reel him in, and that kind of transforms the pass rush, and they were able to bring in some other guys like Dalvin Tomlinson and Calais Campbell in free agency and kind of round out that pass rushing group and solidify the defensive front. But just when you add a player like Sweat to that defensive front, it gives Nick Rallis kind of immeasurable amount of things he can do now with his ability to just have a guy that, okay, Josh, you go get the quarterback, because they didn't have that the last couple of years here. And Nick Rallis did a great job with his defense, being able to scheme up things and basically manufacture a pass rush with what he had. But now he has a guy on the outside that's what he does. He sacks the quarterback, he gets in the backfield, and he wreaks havoc. So that's probably the biggest move. If that's 1A, 1B for me was the extension for Trey McBride as well, because Trey McBride and Kyler Murray have really created a bond, especially in the last year and change. And to have perhaps the best tight end in football, if you look at how much he's being paid now, one of the top 2 or 3 for sure, to have that guy locked up long term to pair with Kyler Murray as kind of his safety blanket and perhaps his favorite wide receiver going into the season as well. If you look at the way they paired up in the last couple seasons, that was big as well for this front office to get that done and also show that, hey, this was a guy we drafted, this is a guy we've developed, and now we're making the commitment to keeping him here long term.
Man, tight end I swear, has just helped up these contracts for the tight ends in general. It is really impressive, and obviously nobody looking forward to facing Kyler Murray or Trey McBride this season. Okay, Keyshawn, a bunch of moves by the San Francisco 49ers this offseason. What do you view as the most important by the 49ers?
When they brought back Robert Saleh, I mean, this defense the past couple of years has been missing identity. When Saleh was running the Niners defense, they were top 5 in the entire league from 2019 to 2020. Now, granted, DeMeco Ryans, before he took the Texans job, he did a great job, but it just seemed like the Niners been playing musical chairs when they had 3 defensive coordinators after Saleh's departure to the New York Jets. But Saleh, he's already had his hands on to this defense by this past draft. Majority of the draft picks are defensive players. So clearly the Niners, they have faith that Saleh will pick the right guys to groom them and possibly get them back to a top 5 defense. And they have the stars that's already in it. You obviously have Fred Warner, Nick Bosa, Deommodore Lenoir, the safeties. And then Saleh even brought a guy that's reproductive for him in New York with Bryce Huff, who had double-digit sacks for him 2 years ago. So I think that the addition to having Saleh back calling that defense would put the Niners, one of the best defenses, back into NFL this upcoming season.
That is such a good pick. I know up here in Seattle, when I saw that come through the news, I was like, no way, he's coming back. I mean, he's been such a headache for the NFC West. But we've got some good defenses across the NFC West, no doubt, especially youth-wise. For the Seahawks, the most newsy topic is they officially signed Shaquille Griffin this week. So that's more recent. Seattle loves him as he started his career here. But that's not my choice. Easy to say the most significant moves are trading away Geno Smith and receiver DK Metcalf. But I'm not quite willing to say those moves directly benefit the Hawks just yet. I'm not trying to make headlines right now. I'm going with their first-round draft pick, Gray Zabel, because of everything it means to Seahawks fans. He was exactly the pick 12s wanted John Schneider to choose, so he was the guy that nobody thought John Schneider was going to choose because he always zigs when people zag. This fan base has begged for more offensive line help, and the fact that he actually chose Zabel, who was actually mocked to the Seahawks in multiple drafts, was just so surprising in the best way at 18 overall out of North Dakota State. But obviously he was a guy that received a ton of different NIL offers from the big guys like Ohio State and other schools heading into his final years because he was so good there. He will be the starting left guard this this year, in my opinion, and in the future. My second place answer is re-signing linebacker Ernest Jones before he became a free agent to a 3-year deal. He's a major reason why the Seahawks defense ended up finishing top 10 in DVOA. He turned their run defense around when it was putrid after Seattle traded for him in Week 7 last year. He is your green dot of the future, and he's a great interview. I think you guys all get how important good interviews are, so we are very thankful for that. Time now for some fantasizing on the NFC West Huddle. The Miami Dolphins somehow convinced tight end Darren Waller to come out of retirement this week, and they completed the trade with the New York Giants to acquire him. So I'm asking each of you, if you could convince one player who was retired within the last 5 years to put on the team you cover, who would it be and why? I'm sure you guys are all excited to go first, but I'm actually going to be selfish and answer this one first for myself. No surprise, I'm about to shock the world and bring Aaron Donald out of retirement, bring him to Seattle. I'm sorry, Ryan. He's ours now. You can't have him. The future Hall of Famer obviously retired in 2024. I know he only really played for one defensive-minded head coach in Jeff Fisher before he was fired. Fisher was. So I'm so curious what Mike McDonald could do with Aaron Donald. Imagining him and Leonard Williams on the same defensive line is enough to make anyone drool, and the Seahawks defense would be so good it would hardly even matter what Sam Darnold is cooking up on offense, and we would never have time for Richard Sines to make fun of Sam Darnold as a quarterback for the Seahawks. Aaron Donald still haunts quarterbacks in their dream. He's my obvious choice because he instantly limits what your opponent can do with their quarterback. I almost went with Jason Kelce as a practical pick because the Seahawks have needed a quality center for, eternity. But I think he also has a lot going on preparing to become Taylor Swift's brother-in-law. That's my answer. And next, I'm going to Keyshawn Ward because I was told by Aaron Levine that you've actually had a week to research Taylor Swift songs and tell us your favorites. So did you do your homework?
Yes, I did do my homework.
Nice.
Actually, I didn't know one Taylor Swift song. It was Shake It Off. But I'll be honest, y'all, I kind of did that on purpose. I knew that I'd get a hot reaction, so that's why I did that. I do know a couple of Taylor Swift songs, but I'm not a big fan. But neither there to say the player I would pick. You actually took one I just said, Aaron Donald, in my mind, but I'll go a different route. I'll pick one of the Niners. Not a sexy name, but John Feliciano. He was the right guard for the Niners when he went to Super Bowl in 2023-2024 season. And I think Feliciano, he was brought in as a utility player, but he ended up really helping the Niners run game. And that's why Christian McCaffrey had such a great season. Everybody talks about Trent Williams, the all-pro, one of the best linemen that's ever played in the game. But Feliciano did a great job that year. So if I had to pick one former Niner this past 5 years, I would go with him.
Okay, I like it. Thanks for switching so we don't all have all the same. I mean, everyone could easily choose Aaron Donald. Robbie, out of all players who have retired in the last 5 years, who are you bringing back to join the Cardinals?
Well, I know Richard's not here, but I will say Aaron Donald, that guy. Sam Darnold, not that guy.
Oh,
just
my goodness.
to keep up what we got going on here at Fox 10. I'm going to, and also Keyshawn, you're a Swiftie. Don't just be honest with us here, okay?
He is.
But I'm going to take kind of what you said up there, Alyssa. Jason Kelce, I think, would be nice to have on this Cardinals offensive line. They have Yelda Froholt as their center. Jason Kelce he seems like he could play other offensive line positions, and their guard spots right now for the Cardinals could use a little help. But also, just Jason Kelce, how much fun would it be to be around that guy on a weekly basis? You mentioned, Alyssa, players being great interviews and how that helps us do our jobs. Jason Kelce is just like the minister of good vibes. I don't think I've ever seen that guy not having a blast. So I just feel like I would want him out of retirement just to be able to hang out with them every, a couple times a week at the facility.
That's
I say hang out with them. We get to talk to them for 30 seconds in front of their locker, but it makes me feel like I know them,
Yeah, I mean, thinking of the segments that you could make your station money on, a segment with Jason Kelce, the sponsorship opportunities are crazy. So there's
something with American flag Speedos there. We'll workshop it. We'll workshop it.
That's a winner, no doubt. Okay, Ryan, I stole your Hall of Fame defensive end, but if you want, you can still choose him. But, who are you going for? Who are you convincing to come back and play for the Rams?
Yeah, you threw a curveball at me because I had the obvious easy answer. I thought if we were going based on our team retirees. And yes, to the earlier point, Jason Kelce, clearly the best beer hang if you're going to just have a beer with. That's the obvious answer. But I'll give you two. I'll go one retiree inside the NFC West and then one national retiree. If we're going inside the NFC West, he just makes the 5-year cutoff. But Arizona Cardinal great Larry Fitzgerald retired in 2020. Arguably one of the best receivers of all time. Would love to see him paired with Matthew Stafford for his last hurrah as he kind of goes for this Super Bowl run. And in this Sean McVay offense would be a blast to see the former Pitt Panther. And then in the league, former USC Trojan, Dallas Cowboy great, Tyron Smith, one of the best left tackles in all of football. The Rams, Rob Havenstein's getting up in their years. He's at right tackle now. They just extended Alaric Jackson to be their left tackle, but he unfortunately is dealing again with blood clots. Obviously wish nothing but the best just for his health. But if you can get a guy like Tyron Smith to be your 14, 15-year, however many years he played, anchor at left tackle, that's a win. So one of those two guys, I think you can't go wrong with either one. There's a lot of greats that have retired, but that's the direction I think I'd go.
Yeah, no doubt. I like both of those a lot. And I did mean like all of NFL, so I'm glad that you went with former Cowboy. And honestly, I thought somebody was going to take Tom Brady. Obviously, I wouldn't because we've got Sam Darnold, so why would I ever take Tom Brady?
Watch the Sam Darnold slander, all right? He's a former Trojan great, too.
Tom Brady could be the quarterback of the Seahawks, and it's just what Richard and I are going to do. It's just kind of perpetuated itself here.
You would. Same thing with Geno Smith. It just never gets old, but it does. It does. All right, for our fourth topic, I'm curious where your trust issues lie. What part of the team that you cover do you trust the least? Whether it's leadership, front office, cornerbacks, anything is on the table. Ryan, let's go back to you and the Rams.
Yeah, well, you listed one of them, and as covering the team and for the fan base, this has been a frustrating one, and it is the cornerback room. They obviously, traded Jalen Ramsey away. He was kind of available again to be traded for. There was a lot of talk of maybe that happening. He ends up going to Pittsburgh. They did not draft or sign an undrafted free agent cornerback at all in this draft. So they're running it back with Akella Witherspoon, who they signed again to a 1-year deal. They've got Darius Williams, who, is a serviceable guy, but certainly not a cornerback one. And then some other guys that they've drafted late, and they signed last year midseason Emmanuel Forbes, former first-round pick, known in L.A. as the Slim Reaper because he weighs about 135 pounds. But they like him a lot. They seem to feel good about that cornerback room. But from the outside looking in, definitely a lot to be desired, and certainly a position group that you thought they would have at least addressed in the draft, if not free agency, but they didn't do it with anyone. So I guess they're happy with what they got, but we have to see it play out.
Interesting. Yeah, we had our time with Akella Witherspoon up here, and we've got a different Witherspoon now who is, potentially all pro very soon.
Yeah.
And I did put cornerbacks in there because I was kind of like, that was my first dig at Los Angeles, the first kind of throw, little diss I'll throw your way. But you caught right onto it, and I'm interested. That's why we need LA representation to hear what actually is the truth. Okay, Keyshawn, San Francisco, what are your trust issues when it comes to that organization right now?
Alyssa, oh my God, the Niners front office. We go through this every year when it comes to free agency. I go on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it today. They always go, oh my God, they might get Davante Adams. Oh my God, they might get Jair Alexander. Oh my God, they might get Jalen Ramsey. You know what happens? Nothing ever happens. The Niners always just miss out on this big splash free agent to come through the organization. I don't know why. This happens all the time, but I can't do nothing but respect it because John Lynch, he's been a winner with the Niners. I mean, they haven't won a Super Bowl, but he's been getting them to a long playoff run. So I can't do nothing but respect it. They want to grow within and groom their talent, so I can't do nothing but respect that. But I just wish one day they could bring in one star free agent to the team.
Man, I get that with the Seattle Mariners. We're saying the same thing every single year for about 25 years now. But it is a good point. And Seahawks fans sure love it. So keep doing what you're doing, John Lynch. I am curious, Robbie, in Phoenix, what about the Cardinals? Do you not trust right now?
I will say, I'll start with what I do trust, because I know when you sent the questions out, you had food on there as something that maybe
Yes.
suspect was, the media meal. I got to give a shout out to the Cardinals. like solid A when it comes to the food, and a good dessert bar as well. And then at halftime, you get a nice ice cream bar or popcorn situation. If you want to, pig out, you can cover a Cardinals game. So I'll give them the props for that. In terms of what I don't trust, this is not Cardinal slander. This is probably league-wide. Any team is probably in the same situation. But when it comes to viewing practice, and there's certain windows that we are allowed to watch, as with any team, they're all kind of the same windows. And I'm sure you guys have had this too. You basically get to watch stretching. And really gets very hard to get an idea of who's available on any week, who is actually injured. And then I'm sure you guys have had this too, where there's the injury report, and throughout the week there's a couple guys that have Veterans Day off here or whatever, and by the end of the week everyone's good. And then there's the flip side of it where you get to game day and you're like, wait a minute, this person's inactive? What's going on? So that's not a Cardinals thing. That's league-wide. That's some gamesmanship. That's how the game is played. But if there was one area that I wish that we could have more transparency, let's just say league-wide. Roger Goodell, if you're listening, let's watch practice. Let us watch them toss the pigskin around. What's the worst that could happen here?
Yes, times 10. I know he's listening. Roger Goodell, definitely frequent viewer of the NFC West Huddle here. No doubt about it.
He's our #1 fan.
Gotta be. I'm so with you on that, though, especially for our poor photographers who are trying to get certain players and they don't even come out during the stretching periods. So I'm so with you. When it comes to the Seattle Seahawks, also very good media food. So like Robbie, I will say the same thing. Phenomenal buffet, dessert, all the things with the Seahawks. I've got trust issues with the offensive line coaches. It may be unfair this year because they're brand new. Clint Kubiak is offensive coordinator. He's got his guy, John Benton, who will be in charge of the offensive line this year. What I like is that Benton actually has experience, way more experience than who the Seahawks had last year in Scott Huff. Nothing against him, but it was his first year in the NFL. His OC, Ryan Grubb, also his first year in the NFL. Both of those guys were phenomenal with the Washington Huskies at the college level. Totally different. We all know the Seahawks' weakest unit for several years now has been up front on offense in the trenches. But they've actually spent more draft picks on offensive linemen over the past 4 years than any other team in the NFL, with 10 total picks. And now you've got Gray Zabel, 2 of them in the top 18, with Charles Cross, who was number 9 overall. It's time we put some of the onus on the coaching staff and developing all of those young guys here in Seattle. It can't just be about free agents. You've had so many opportunities with centers, with right guards, with left guards. You've got your left guard. You've got probably your right tackle as long as Abe Lucas is healthy. Your left tackle is a phenomenal athlete in Charles Cross. I'm hoping this new scheme under Clint Kubiak, who loves to run the ball, will help all those guys in terms of what they know they need to do. But the coaching side of it has to be better, and I'm going to call them out. I'm going to have new trust issues if they're good, and then if this keeps continuing, it's got to be trust issues with the evaluation and scouting department because they continue to draft these guys. I hope everybody proves me wrong within the coaching staff and with the scouting department. Get that offensive line up to par. All right, that's going to do it for us. For Keyshawn Ward in San Francisco, Robbie Baker in Phoenix, and Ryan Dyrud in Los Angeles of the great LAFB Network. Follow them on X at LAFB Network. I'm Alyssa Charleston-Smith in Seattle. Thanks for joining us, and have a safe Independence weekend.